How you guys doing today? So I've got a 2023 Chevy Suburban four-wheel drive with the 6.2 liter in it. That's the L87 RPO engine code. Now this was on a Friday evening. This vehicle, the customer had come to pick it up brand new, 5 miles on it. Very, very nice Suburban. Obviously under warranty. And the concern on it was that the left stop lamp, or running lamp, if you will, tail lamp, just wasn't lighting up. Now, all the other lights on the vehicle worked. It had obviously went through PDI, and when it went through its that's a pre-delivery inspection. When it went through PDI, of course, everything worked. So kind of an intermittent electrical issue, but not too complicated. I've got video of me testing certain things, so this is for the technician as well. However, the purpose behind this video is not just for the technician. My goal here is to provide training in some aspects, or maybe perspective, to everyone. Full spectrum: service advisors, service technicians, parts advisors, even service managers. Whether you're independent or not independent, shop really is going to be up to you what you want to gain from this. Okay, the goal is to focus heavily on self-development. Why is that important? Well, similar to anything, when you want to learn something or become better at it, the best way to learn something, honestly, is to start trying to train it, in my opinion. It's kind of like school. It's like, well, if you want to be more of a subject matter expert on something, you need to do this project here. You need to present this project, right? Outlining is going to be key here. When you outline your thoughts and put it down on paper, you tend to take more time to research that before because you're trying to put everything in a logical order. Okay, so if you get anything out of that, it's essentially what I'm hoping to accomplish here. The objectives of it really is going through the process of gathering information, so that we can get everything we need on the front end. Developing a strategy or an SOP or a standard operating procedure for your team, if you will, if you're in that realm. If you don't have a good SOP or a good standard operating procedure, you're going to have difficulty, because everyone needs to be on the same sheet of music when it comes to a team. And if they're not, you're going to lose time and you're going to lose money. Learning how to bill for that time and having a plan for how you're going to bill for that time is another thing that I think is a solid objective of it. You need considering one's role within the organization. So that's another thing. Like, no matter what role you are, whether you're the guy who changes oil or whether you're the guy who manages the shop, everyone needs to have a full in my personal opinion, everyone needs to have a full spectrum of everyone's role and responsibilities, so that they understand, like, oh, okay, I know why so and so is stuck doing that, or why they do that. You don't want to create animosity amongst your people or your team. They all need to understand that everyone is a spoke, and everyone's role is to support the wheel. Okay. Again, multifaceted training here. I want to help technicians out there that maybe are doing warranty for dealers or whatever. Help them learn from my experience and learn how to develop a story and learn how to write that story. And how I do it is not necessarily how you have to do it. I'm just giving you an example based on this case study of how I do it, okay? Based on my training and everything else. So take it for what it is. How to test, how to actually do the testing as a technician. There again, this is more technical. What's involved with the testing? What do I really need to do? There again, I want to incorporate that into this video. And then afterwards, after it's all said and done, after the dust is settled and the battle is over, how do we analyze that information? How do we analyze that process? And how do we look at everything full spectrum and see where we need to make changes and see where we can improve, or see what's working and what's not working, or what's kind of working and what do we need to tweak to make it work better. Very important, okay? When it comes to service advisors, again, I've never actually been a service advisor at a dealer. I've never been a service advisor even on the private side. I've dealt with service advisors extensively. I did do my role as a service advisor, but it was for the military. So I'm basing it off of my experience of managing work orders, managing labor hours, managing that aspect of it, and understanding that there's a lot on a parts guy's plate. There's a lot on a service advisor's plate. There is a ton on a service manager's plate, right? And I get all that, okay, as a service technician. I understand that, okay? But I don't think everyone does, okay? And that this can create animosity, and it really can create an atmosphere that's toxic, really, to be honest with you. So when it comes to the service advisor, I think the biggest thing to take away from anything is, are we utilizing the forms and the tools available to us to our advantage? What do I mean by that? Well, what about a customer concern verification questionnaire, or a form, if you will? Well, we should be doing those for anytime a customer brings a vehicle in for whether it's scheduled or unscheduled diagnosis or testing, any concern of that nature. There are forms available to us, at least in General Motors realm, and they're out there on the internet as well. You can even develop your own, okay, that help assist us in getting that information we need out of the customer. And the reason this is so important is because when it comes to diagnosing a concern that may be intermittent or is active, whatever, it paints the picture for the technician, and it helps the doctor, if you will, find the root cause of the concern. I see a lot of, this isn't working. Like, I need more than that. I need to know when it started not working. I need to know when it doesn't work. I need to know certain aspects of that. So what I want to show you real quick is I want to show you guys what General Motors has available, okay? If we go into, if you look here, these are the apps that I have and I use quite often, but Service Forms here is a really cool little tab where I can get my all my CCVS forms or customer concern verification sheets. They're right there, and they're in PDF format. They're fillable. So, for example, if I have somebody come in with a braking issue, I can pull up a brake, steering, suspension, tires, and wheels form. And if I pull this up and you look at all the information I can gather from this customer. So I get customer in, they're coming up to my counter and they're talking to me like, hey, I had an appointment to get my brakes looked at because they're doing some weird things. They're squealing, they're making noise, right? I don't care how simple it is. This would be something that I would want my customer to fill out. Similar to walking into a clinic or a doctor's office where you come in and you have a concern about your body or whatever, or your child. The first thing they do is they take your information, they get all your information in, and they find you in the system, and then they enter it in, and like, okay, yep, your appointment was at 10, you're here 15 minutes early, okay, yep, and then they hand you a clipboard with a pen with forms. Why? because they want to get all that information documented on the front end so that they can give it to the doctor, and the doctor doesn't have to, the doctor's already got the information. They can kind of do a pre-diagnosis in their head. Why should this be any different? So just looking at all this information in this form, obviously somebody took the time to figure out like what they needed to, what would be relevant. And it probably was a technician, to be honest with you, that did drivability. So I've got an example here for this, one that I looked at, this case study. So let me just go ahead and pull that up here. And if you look, up here, customer concern verification sheet, electrical accessory, right? Customer just purchased this vehicle and noticed the driver's side tail lamp is inoperative. Okay, I typed that in there. Was not present during pre-delivery inspection. Okay. Now, how much better or how much nicer would it be as a technician if you could see that as a line? Like, what if that was the line for this concern? That's how it should be written, in my opinion. Customer just purchased this vehicle, plain English, and noticed the driver's side tail lamp is inoperative. Was not present during the pre-delivery inspection. That tells me a lot as a technician. Not only that, you're going to also give me this verification sheet with the RO. Because then I can go through and I can go, okay, cool story. So I'm not worried about the HVAC system. I'm not worried about keyless entry. I'm not worried about power seats. Not worried about the interior. I'm worried about the exterior. Okay? And I can see here they've got driver's side is the concern. And the lamp type is the tail lamp. And it's inoperative. And when does the problem occur? All the time. Okay? And if I look at weather and environmental considerations, there's nothing checked, but what if it was weather related or environmentally related? Okay, how cool is that? And then I got my VIN, I got my miles on the vehicle, I've got which technician's assigned to it and which advisor is assigned to it. So anyone who picks this form up knows exactly what vehicle it belongs to. Hell, you could even go a step further and put an RO number on it, whatever. In additional notes, I put warranty pay. Customers waiting, so that tells me as a technician they're waiting. Please let service advisor know if this will be more than 2 hours to diagnose and or repair. Now there you go. So I can look at that as a tech and go, well, okay, it's going to be more than 2 hours, or it's going to be about 3 hours. So you might want to arrange a ride for them. Stuff to consider. Okay, this wastes a lot of time. People don't realize that the simple stuff is what wastes the most time. Okay, and then they wonder why their techs are inefficient, and then they wonder why their shop loses money. Well, this is a big one. Your processes have to be logical. They have to be logical. They have to make sense based on the workflow. Anyways, I thought I'd share that with you and show you that and why I think that's important. The other thing to consider as a service advisor is why not just provide a vehicle health report with every vehicle? So customer comes in, you greet them, you get their information, you start processing an RO, or you start getting them ready to build this RO, right? Whether they're unscheduled or scheduled, coming in for routine maintenance, they're coming in for a follow-up repair and they have an appointment, or they're just a walk-in, or whatever the case may be. Okay, sounds good. Let's just get some basic information. Let's get you entered in. Okay, yep. Here, based off what you're telling me, here's a form. Can our waiting room's right there. If you want some coffee, whatever, sit down, take time, fill this form out. If you have any questions on any of these areas, please let me know. But give us as much information as you possibly can, because this is going to help our technicians pinpoint or do the best they can, right, to diagnose your concern. But when it comes to the vehicle health report, what I mean by that is while the customer is doing that, or while the customer, you're getting a complete code scan done on that vehicle, and you're looking at all the codes that are in there, and now you're like, oh wow, this is more than just. This might be more than just bad spark plug. This might be more than just a tail lamp that's an issue. We've got a lot of communication faults in here, whatever. And if you don't know as a service advisor, then why not go to a lead technician and say, hey, can you take a look at these codes real quick and tell me kind of where I should be going with this? And I'm going to get to this when it comes to getting the time up front for the initial diagnosis. Okay. So getting into that, determining labor time and hourly rate. So when it comes to routine maintenance or, like lube oil and filters or a repair, obviously you're going to use that published labor time, right? However, you should have a process in place where you have some kind of checks and balances going on in the back so that you're not just selling jobs without looking at that vehicle closely and being like, well, okay, yeah, the book time is 1.5 to replace that seal, but this is rusted and that's probably going to break and this might require more time. And, this is all stuff that needs to be done on the front end before we sell the job, okay? In my honest opinion. So what I'm getting at here is why wouldn't you base your hourly rate on like a tiered system? So you have your specialty. Let's say you're a Chevy dealer or you're a Ford dealer, right? Your base hourly rate is going to be based on, okay, well, I'm working on Fords, right? That's my specialty. I would even go a step further and say that your base hourly rate should be tiered based on what type of vehicle it is. As in, is it a gasoline vehicle or is it a diesel or is it a hybrid or electric vehicle? Because those should be different labor rates when it comes to maintenance and repairs, as well as when it comes to diagnosing and testing. Okay, maintenance and repair time book time rate should be different than diagnosis rate. Okay, diagnosis rate should be a higher rate. Always, because no matter what, you lose. And the reason you're losing is because you don't factor a lot of these things in my honest opinion. Maintenance and repairs outside of your specialty, again, something to consider. If it's a Dodge and I only work on Chevy, well, I have no problem working on the Dodge, but the customer needs to be aware that we're going to charge a little bit more here because we're not a Dodge dealer and maybe there's no Dodge dealers in the area and they need to get it repaired. Well, it is what it is. You're not doing anyone, like, why would I take in a European if I work on domestics and not charge more? Okay. And not only that, we're probably already charging less than what the dealer would charge for that European. So don't feel bad about charging for your time because that's perfectly acceptable. When it comes to diagnosis and testing, okay, this is a different realm, and that's why I'm making the video. Maintenance and repairs is pretty straightforward when it comes to book time, for the most part. But when it comes to diagnosis and testing, that's a whole different ballgame. You almost got to have it broken down into like a 3-tier system, in my opinion. And what do I mean by that? Well, take a look here. I've outlined this, okay? So if you look, diagnosis and testing, utilize a tier 1 through tier 3 system to determine hours, okay? I've broken this down into, based off those customer verification sheets, I've broken this down into the certain areas that and again, this would require training for an advisor. But look, a tier 1 diagnosis. So nothing coming in for diagnosis and testing is billed under 1.5, and that's my opinion. The reason being, starting indoor charging system concerns, okay? I don't care what it is. If it comes in with a battery issue, I got to test the battery. I might have to charge the battery. I need to test the charging system. I need to pull codes. My advisor's got to have, he's wasting time getting all the information, doing all that. The tech's got to do a MPVI. So I'm kind of considering a full car overview, plus the testing, plus looking at the entire system. And generally speaking, these areas for the tier 1, whether it's starting or charging system, tire and wheel, NVH is noise, vibration, and harshness concerns, brake, suspension, steering system concerns, HVAC concerns, and fluid leaks. Okay, 1.5 hours is more than acceptable. Okay, at the diagnosis rate that you charge at your shop, I don't see why it wouldn't be. Tier 2 would be more in the 2-hour range up front. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to tell a customer, hey, we need to get 2 hours out of you right up. No, I'm just going to say, this is how much it's going to be. Are you willing to commit to this on the front end? And then once we determine direction, if it ends up being something more, then we'll certainly let you know. But we're gonna need 2 hours up front to start the process. Okay. If it takes us an hour, right, and we're billing you and we're getting 2 hours worth of money commitment from you, Mr. Customer or Mrs. Customer, up front, we can always give you an hour back. We can always give you, X amount of dollars back, but we don't know until we test, and we don't know until we get a full spectrum on what your car is doing. Maybe your car's not even worth fixing. There's a lot of aspects here. But I've put on here, like intermittent brake and suspension and steering concerns, okay? When they're intermittent, interior, exterior, electrical, accessory, and infotainment concerns. And with that brake, suspension, and steering system concerns, like noise, vibration, and harshness would fall into that, like intermittent noises and stuff. Engine or transmission drivability concerns. I don't think you should take anything in that's got an engine or transmission drivability concern under 2 hours, because it's going to take at least that. Generally speaking, by the time you research, by the time you test, by the time you get your parts estimate, by the time you build the estimate, by the time you get done calling and talking with the customer, 2 hours of time is not unreasonable here. You gotta make money too, manual drivetrain and transaxle drivability concerns. Tier 3. What is in the tier 3? Mainly your intermittent stuff. So if you look there, all your intermittent concerns are in there. Battery parasitic drains. Hey, my battery keeps going dead every 4 days. Every now and then it doesn't want to start. I turn the key and nothing happens, but all the lights come on. Again, this is where those questionnaires are going to help your technician, because it asks a lot of those questions. And this is where I see a lot of time wasted, is on the front end. We're not gathering the proper information. We're not billing the proper time up front. We're not getting that commitment from that customer up front. And then what we end up doing is the technician ends up spending too much time on the front end, and then you're playing catch up and trying to roll it into some kind of repair or hide it. Why do we do that? Why is that even happening? It doesn't make any sense to me. Why wouldn't you just be straightforward with the customer and be like, look, this is an intermittent concern. You've got noise coming out of your drivetrain somewhere, that, according to this questionnaire that you've done. It's going to be $300 for us to start the process of narrowing this problem down. Are you okay with committing to that $300, up front, so that we can, take the time to really dive deep here and find out exactly what's causing the problem? It could be a bad bearing somewhere. Who knows? These are things that I don't think, it's not the technician as so much as it is. I'm not saying there aren't technicians out there that need training. The techs out there do need training. Don't get me wrong, but the inefficiency comes a lot on the administrative side, and that's my opinion. And I'm pretty confident in my assessment. Diagnosis and testing hourly rates. Okay, again, fictitious numbers. I'm not going to share that with you. That's just me brainstorming. But there again, why would your hourly rate for a guy that just pops in, when you're just doing strut work, okay? Hourly rate for doing mechanical repairs versus hourly rate doing electrical and drivability concerns. You need to change your hourly rate depending on how you pay your guys. I don't know. I'm not telling people what to do or how to do it, but I can tell you right now, if I was running a shop, that's how I'd roll. This is exactly how I'd roll, based on my experience. Nevertheless, I hope I covered everything. I really just want to get people aware that bringing your car, this could be even for the customer, but when somebody's bringing their car to you with a concern, that's drivability or diagnosis or some kind of drivability or where diagnosis and testing is going to be involved. The training of the advisor that takes that in, there needs to be a process in place so that they can properly determine, okay, well, this is outside our wheelhouse or this is within our wheelhouse. So there are going to be different labor rates for that. This is a routine maintenance item. This is not a routine maintenance item. This is something that's outside of maintenance and repair. Labor rates should reflect that. And if you're going to bring your car to a specialist, okay, or a doctor, you need a bill for that time, and don't assume that you're going to make the money back on your repair side because you're just setting yourself up for failure. Just be honest, be forthright, get the money. If a customer is not willing to put that money up front, what makes you think they're going to be willing to put the money down on the repair? Okay, so if money's a factor already, that tells you a lot. All right. It depends on what kind of work you want to do. It depends on what kind of customers you want to attract. Depends on what kind of work you ultimately want to put out the door. I'm a firm believer in is like, if you bring your car to me, you're going to pay for it. And if you don't want to pay for it, well, cool story. I don't know what to tell you because this is our rate. This is what we're going to charge. We have to be able to make money at the same time. We have to be able to pay our guys that are specialists or even the guys turning bolts. I mean, they got to be able to make money. So at the end of the day, if you're not willing to bill for the time, well, you ain't going to make it.